My name is Helen, 30 years old. That Friday night, I wanted nothing more than a quiet evening to myself. After a long week of managing landscaping projects, juggling clients, and late night paperwork with my business partner Sarah, my body craved silence. I'd set up camp on my couch with Netflix humming in the background, the warm glow of my lamp the only light in the apartment. My phone was face down, no calls, no emails, no interruptions. But then came the knock, sharp, insistent, almost cheerful. I frowned. It was past 10 p.m. I wasn't expecting anyone. For a second, I thought maybe a neighbor needed something. But when I opened the door, there she was. Ivy, my younger sister, 24 years old, with that practiced smile she wore whenever she wanted something. "Helen, surprise!" she chirped, brushing past me before I could respond. The scent of perfume and cheap party wine lingered as she moved through the doorway. I just blinked. Hi? What are you doing here at this hour?" "I was at this party a couple blocks away," she explained, already plopping her bag onto my hallway floor. "Figured it'd be easier to crash here than take the bus all the way home." Typical Ivy. No call, no warning, just assumption. I sighed, forcing a smile. "Fine, guest room's free, but maybe next time. Call first?" She spun back, grinning wide. "You're the best." With a quick hug, her arms stiff, fleeting, she vanished down the hallway. "I'm dead tired, so I'm just going to crash, okay?" That was odd. Normally, Ivy lingered in my kitchen, scavenging snacks, peppering me with nosy questions about work, friends, boyfriends, anything to delay sleep. But tonight, her steps were hurried, almost panicked. I sat back on the couch, the unease prickling my skin. Maybe the party drained her. Maybe she'd had too much to drink. That had to be it. But hours later, as I lay in bed, the noises started. The guest room was right next to mine. Through the wall, I could hear the faint creak of drawers opening, closing. A zipper. The muffled murmur of her voice. Too sharp, too urgent to be casual texts. I turned onto my side, staring into the dark. What could she be doing at midnight? Once I heard a soft thud, like something being dropped. Then silence. I wanted to knock, to ask what the hell she was up to, but the heaviness of exhaustion kept me down. Instead, I stared at the ceiling, every sound etching deeper into me. One detail stuck in my mind before sleep finally pulled me under. The way Ivy had clutched her overnight bag as if it contained something precious, something she couldn't let me glimpse. At the time, I brushed it off. Later, I'd wish I hadn't. Saturday morning, I woke up with the idea of making pancakes. Ivy always loved my pancakes, fluffy, buttery, stacked with syrup dripping down the sides. I thought maybe we could sit, eat, and talk like sisters again. Maybe last night's oddness was just exhaustion. But as I padded into the kitchen, I caught the sound of the front door closing. I hurried to the window just in time to see Ivy hurrying down the street, her overnight bag bouncing at her side. No thanks, no hug, no sleepy grumble, just gone. "Ivy!" I called through the open window. "Breakfast!" She turned briefly, waved, and shouted back, "Sorry, gotta run." Then she half jogged toward the bus stop. I froze there, spatula in hand. Since when does Ivy wake up before noon on a weekend? Our parents always joked about dragging her out of bed for Sunday lunch. Something was off, but I couldn't pin it down. The rest of Saturday I busied myself. Groceries, a bit of cleaning, catching up on project estimates. Life felt ordinary again. By evening, I'd convinced myself I was just overthinking. That night, around 2 a.m., I jolted awake. My phone buzzed relentlessly on the nightstand, the screen lighting up again and again. For a second, panic seized me. Maybe an emergency, maybe Sarah calling about a client disaster. But when I grabbed the phone, it wasn't Sarah. It was a flood of messages. Bank alerts. At first, I squinted at the numbers, brain foggy with sleep. Transaction approved. $4,847.50. Hawaiian Airlines. My stomach clenched. Hawaiian Airlines? First class. 2 tickets. Another $892. Grand Wailea Resort reservation confirmed. Then another $356.78. Surf and Sand Boutique. And another $178.30 Ocean View Restaurant. My hands trembled as I scrolled. Hotel upgrades, spa packages, jewelry boutiques, each charge more outrageous than the last. "What the hell?" I whispered. I leapt from bed, tore open my purse on the kitchen table, dumping everything out. My personal credit card was there, my ID, debit card, but my corporate card, the one linked to the landscaping company's account, was gone. It hit me like a punch to the gut. Ivy. She'd been in the guest room, rummaging through drawers, whispering on her phone. She'd slipped out early, clutching that bag like it carried gold. No, no, she wouldn't. My voice cracked. But deep down, I already knew. I called her immediately, straight to voicemail, called again, voicemail, again, again. 20 tries, 20 rejections. Anger swelled hot in my chest. I wanted to scream, to march to our parents' house right then and demand answers. Instead, I dialed my mom. She answered on the third ring, voice warm at first. Helen, what's wrong? You sound upset. I took a breath. Mom, Ivy stole my corporate credit card. She's in Hawaii right now spending thousands of dollars. There are charges all over my statement. The silence that followed wasn't shock, it was frost. Helen, my mother said coldly, I don't want to hear you talk about your sister like that. That's a terrible accusation. I'm not accusing her, Mom. I'm telling you what happened. I have the notifications, the proof. She told me herself her boyfriend paid for their trip. You're just jealous. You bury yourself in work while she actually enjoys life. I pulled the phone from my ear, staring at it in disbelief. Jealous? My voice cracked. Anger and grief tangled together. Mom, she's draining my company's account. This isn't about fun. It's theft. I said I don't want to hear it. Don't call again with these lies. And then the line went dead. I sat in silence, phone still pressed to my ear, the hum of the dial tone echoing in my chest. Betrayal wasn't new. My parents had always taken Ivy's side, no matter what she did. But this was different. This was my mother hanging up on me, while her youngest daughter burned through money I had worked years to build. I set the phone down, palms sweaty, heart hammering. For a long moment, I just stared at the stack of bank alerts, each one flashing like a wound. Not just Ivy. My parents had betrayed me too. The first instinct pounding in my veins was to grab the phone, call the bank, cancel the card, and file a fraud report right there, shut everything down before Ivy could dig the hole any deeper. But my mother's voice replayed in my head. That cutting dismissal, the way she'd snapped, don't call again with these lies. I set the phone down. My breath came shallow, fast. A lifetime of memories unspooled in me. Birthdays where Ivy was showered with gifts while I got practical things like notebooks. Her endless job quitting, car accidents, bounce checks, each time cushioned by Mom's soothing. She's just young, Helen. She'll figure it out. And me, the steady one, the reliable one, the one expected to clean up behind her. Not this time. If Ivy wanted to play her little game, steal from me, strut around like she'd outsmarted everyone, then let her. Let her believe she was untouchable. And then I'd show her just how wrong she was. I dialed Sarah, my business partner, heart hammering. She picked up immediately. Helen, it's 2 a.m. What's... Ivy stole our corporate card, I blurted. She's in Hawaii spending company money. There was a pause, then Sarah's voice sharpened like glass. You're kidding. I wish I was. I've got the alerts. First-class tickets, resorts, clothes, the works. It's already over $8,000, maybe more. Jesus Christ, we have to call the bank. And the police. I know, but not yet. Not yet? She nearly shouted. Helen, she's robbing us blind. I want her to think she's safe, I said slowly. Let her post her photos, brag to her friends. When she gets home, relaxed and smug, we'll have everything, and she won't be able to deny a thing. On the other end, Sarah was quiet. I could almost hear her jaw clenching. Finally, you're playing with fire. I know, I whispered, but this time I want her to feel the burn. After we hung up, I opened Ivy's Instagram, and there she was, smiling with a cocktail by the pool, sunlight catching the glitter of a new necklace. Hashtag living my best life. The caption stung. So grateful for this amazing trip. Boyfriend surprised me. I'm the luckiest girl. My lips curled in a bitter smile. Grateful? She hadn't even paid for her bus fare last week. Now she was parading in designer swimsuits, letting the world believe some doting boyfriend had whisked her away. Post after post, snorkeling, spa treatments, gourmet dinners, new dresses in glossy boutiques. Every single thing she flaunted, I knew the receipt was waiting for me in my inbox. I sat there scrolling, jaw tight, anger simmering into something colder, sharper. This wasn't just theft, it was performance. Ivy was constructing a life out of my money and laughing at me from the beach. I clicked refresh. Another post appeared instantly. Ivy and her boyfriend, arms around each other, bronze with sun, captioned, "Feeling so blessed and loved." Blessed, loved. I set the phone down, staring into the darkness of my apartment, my chest rising and falling in jagged breaths. She thought she was untouchable. Good. Because the higher she climbed on this fantasy, the harder the crash would be when I finally pulled the ground out from under her. Ivy's trip stretched out for days, each one punctuated by more photos. Dinner by candlelight, champagne toasts, spa selfies, sunsets that looked stolen from a travel ad. By the end of the week, the charges had climbed past $12,000. $12,000. And then finally, a new post. Flying home. Missed my family so much. I almost laughed. Family. The very family she was bleeding dry. I waited. I wanted her to get comfortable, to believe she'd gotten away with it. For 3 days, I watched her unpack her designer shopping bags on Instagram, saw her showing off her tan, her new wardrobe, her smug glow. Then I made my move. I printed everything. The bank statements, the screenshots, every charge matched to every Instagram post. I slid them neatly into a folder. Then I drove to my parents' house. Dad answered the door, cheerful as always. "Helen, what a nice surprise. Come in." I stepped into the living room. Ivy was sprawled on the couch, skin bronzed, her hair falling in effortless waves. She looked like she'd walked straight out of one of her own photos. Mom hovered nearby, smiling faintly, protective as ever. "Hi, Helen," Ivy said, her voice syrupy, almost smug. "How's work been?" I sat across from her, setting the folder on the coffee table. My hands didn't shake, though my heartbeat thudded in my ears. "Actually, I'm not here to chat. I'm here to finish something." Mom's eyes narrowed instantly. "If this is about Ivy again..." "It is." I flipped open the folder. "And before you say a word, I want you to know I filed a police report yesterday. There's already an investigation underway." The room went still. Dad frowned. Mom's smile cracked. Ivy sat up, that fake ease slipping from her face. "What are you talking about?" Mom snapped. "Ivy stole my corporate card," I said, voice steady. "She spent over $12,000 on her little vacation. That's theft. And because it's a business account, it's corporate fraud, a felony." "That's ridiculous," Mom said sharply. "Her boyfriend paid for the trip. She told us herself." I spread out the papers, one by one. The Hawaiian Airlines charge, the resort bill, the boutique purchases. Next to each, a screenshot of Ivy's posts. Her in the hotel lobby, her holding the boutique bags, her at the restaurant with the same plates pictured on the receipt. Dad leaned forward, his brow darkening as he read. Mom's lips pressed tight, trembling. Ivy laughed weakly. "I didn't steal anything. I just borrowed it. I was going to pay you back." "With what money?" I shot back. "You don't have a job, Ivy. You never have money." Her face flushed. "I'll get one. I'll figure it out." I pulled out one last paper. "It doesn't matter. Detective Martinez already contacted the hotel, the airline, the stores. They have footage of you using the card. The email used to book the flights? Traced to you. This isn't just my word against yours. It's evidence." The silence after that was suffocating. Ivy's lips parted, her eyes darting between me and our parents. "You called the police on your own sister?" Mom's voice cracked. "I called the police because someone stole $12,000 from my business," I said, my chest heaving. "The fact it was my sister makes it worse, not better." Ivy's bravado collapsed. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she shook her head. "Please, Helen, don't let me go to jail. I'm sorry, okay? I'll do whatever you want. Just don't let them take me away." Dad rubbed his temples, pale. Mom shot to her feet, pacing. "There has to be something we can do. We'll pay it back. We'll make this right." "It's not about money anymore," I said, my voice hardening. "It's about accountability. Ivy's been getting away with everything her whole life, not this time." "You're cruel," Mom hissed. "Family forgives family." "No," I whispered. "Family doesn't steal from family. And family sure as hell doesn't hang up on you when you try to tell them the truth." I gathered the papers back into the folder and stood. "Detective Martinez will be in touch, Ivy. He's offering a plea deal. Pay back the money, accept a suspended sentence. Otherwise, trial, and 5 years in prison." Ivy gasped, hand to her mouth. Mom reached for me, but I stepped back. "Don't call me," I said, my voice cold as glass. "Not until you're ready to discuss how she's going to pay back every cent." And then I walked out, leaving them all frozen in that living room, the weight of evidence spread like ashes across the table. The next morning, Detective Martinez called. His voice was calm, measured, but every word carried weight. I spoke with your sister, he said. She understands the charges. She's shaken. I've offered her a plea deal, full repayment within 2 weeks, plus a suspended sentence. If she refuses, we'll proceed to trial. That could mean up to 5 years. 5 years. The number echoed in my head. I almost pitied her. Almost. But then the phone calls started. Mom. Dad. Over and over. Begging. Demanding. Guilt-tripping. Their voicemails blurred together into one long lecture. She's your sister. You're destroying her future. How can you be so heartless? I deleted every single one. Sarah, though, wasn't so forgiving. This isn't just family drama, Helen, she reminded me. This is business. She stole from both of us. You think a client would trust us again if word got out we just let 12 grand vanish without consequences? I know, I said, pinching the bridge of my nose. Believe me, I know. Then stay firm, Sarah said. Let her feel the consequences for once. For once. The phrase stuck with me, because that was the heart of it. Ivy had lived her whole life cushioned, forgiven before she even apologized. This time, the cushion was gone. And then, out of nowhere, the twist I hadn't seen coming. A call from her boyfriend. Helen, this is Jake. His voice was tentative, almost ashamed. I stiffened. What did you want? I wanted to apologize. My silence pushed him on. I didn't know about the card. She told me her parents gave her money for the trip. If I'd known... He broke off, his voice heavy. I never would have gone. Ever. I leaned back against my desk, processing. Why are you telling me this? Because I feel guilty. I spent that money too, even if I didn't know it was stolen. I want to make it right. A pause. I'll cover half. 6,000. I blinked. You don't have to. Yes, I do. It's the right thing. Besides, I broke up with her. I can't be with someone who lies like that, who steals from her own sister. For the first time in days, something loosened in my chest. But the relief didn't last long. That night, Ivy showed up at my door with Mom trailing behind her. Ivy's eyes were red, her body trembling. She looked nothing like the glowing girl from those beach photos. Helen, please, her voice cracked. Don't let them send me to jail. I'll do anything. I'll pay it back. You'll pay it back because you have no choice, I cut in. Mom pushed past us, fury simmering. This is madness. You're willing to destroy your sister's future over money? Over some card? My voice came out cold, even to my own ears. No. I'm holding her accountable, something you've never done. Ivy sobbed, her shoulders shaking. I'll get a job. I'll work day and night. I leaned closer, my words deliberate. You should have thought about that before you stole from me. The silence after that was sharp, suffocating. Mom glared, Ivy wept, and for the first time in my life, I didn't bend. Not even a little. A week later, we sat in a lawyer's office that smelled faintly of leather and old books. The air was heavy, tense, as if even the walls knew this wasn't about money, it was about reckoning. On one side of the table sat Ivy, pale and wilted, her eyes hollowed by sleepless nights. Beside her, Mom clutched her hands so tightly their knuckles turned white. Dad avoided my gaze altogether, staring at the polished wood like it might offer him an escape. On the other side, Sarah and I sat with our lawyer. Between us lay the repayment agreement. $12,000, 2 weeks, non-negotiable. Jake was there too, sitting apart from Ivy, his posture stiff, his face grim. They didn't even look at each other. When he signed the papers agreeing to cover $6,000 himself, Ivy flinched, as though the scrape of pen on paper was another blade carving her open. I'll pay my half immediately, Jake said flatly, sliding the signed page back across the table. It's the least I can do. Ivy's lips parted like she wanted to protest, but no sound came. Her parents exchanged a look, a mixture of shame and desperation, before Dad took the pen with a trembling hand. He signed for the other $6,000, his shoulders sagging, as if the ink itself weighed him down. Mom tried to salvage some control, her voice tight. We'll pay it back. But Helen, this is cruel. You could have handled this privately, without dragging the law into it. I met her gaze, my voice calm but edged like steel. Privately is how you've handled her whole life. Look where that's gotten us. Ivy cried silently through the entire meeting, tears sliding down her cheeks onto the unsigned copy of the agreement. She didn't wipe them away. When it was over, Sarah and I left with the documents. My parents stayed behind with Ivy, murmuring in low, frantic tones. Jake walked out separately, not even glancing back at her. Outside, the late afternoon sun felt almost blinding. Sarah squeezed my shoulder. You did the right thing. But right didn't feel like triumph. It felt heavy. necessary. In the days that followed, the ripple effects spread. Word reached my aunts, uncles, cousins. The story twisted as it traveled. In one version, I was a ruthless businesswoman who set up her sister. In another, Ivy was the poor victim of my jealousy. Relatives called, hungry for details, some offering sympathy, others veiled judgment. And Ivy? She applied for jobs. Retail, a bank teller position, even a receptionist gig. All required background checks. All rejected her. Soon, the whispers turned to pity. She can't get work because of that fraud thing. Helen ruined her life. Ruined. As though I had swiped the card and boarded the plane myself. I tried not to care, but it stung. Not because of the gossip, but because my parents fed it. They told anyone who'd listen that I'd gone too far, that Ivy's failures were on my hands. Meanwhile, Sarah and I rebuilt trust with clients, doubling down on security and separating every financial string. The business steadied. We moved forward. But Ivy was stuck, bitter, jobless, blaming me for every locked door. And though I hated myself for it, sometimes I wondered if she wasn't completely wrong. Months passed. The storm quieted, though the echoes remained. Sarah and I threw ourselves into the business, and the company thrived. Bigger contracts, steadier clients, tighter controls. I locked my corporate card in my office drawer like a sacred artifact. On the surface, life was good, yet a heaviness lingered, the kind that seeps into you when family becomes stranger than strangers. I hadn't spoken to Mom or Dad since that day at the lawyer's office. Their messages had shifted from fury to silence, a silence so thick it almost felt louder than their anger. When I ran into my aunt at the grocery store, she leaned in and whispered, "I can't believe Ivy would do such a thing. But your mother says you set her up." Set her up, as if I'd masterminded a scheme to ruin my own sister instead of being the victim of hers. Still, not everyone bought their version. Some cousins texted me privately, "If I ever invite Ivy over, I'll hide my wallet." A bitter laugh escaped me the first time I read that. At least someone understood. Ivy, meanwhile, spiraled. The fraud investigation clung to her like a shadow. Every job application collapsed at the background check. She told people it was my fault, that I'd sabotaged her future out of spite. I heard through the grapevine she spent most days in her old room at our parents' house, scrolling her phone, waiting for someone to rescue her again. And my parents kept rescuing, paying her bills, defending her, feeding her narrative. Part of me wanted to scream at them, to shake them until they admitted the truth. This was Ivy's doing, not mine. But another part of me had grown tired of playing referee in a game I never signed up for. One night, sitting alone on my balcony, city lights stretching into the distance, I let myself remember. 15 years old, working weekends at the diner, slipping my tips into Ivy's hand because she wanted a dress. 19, covering her tuition because she swore college was her dream. 25, bailing her out after she wrecked her car. Always giving, always covering, always believing. And now 30, finally learning. I'd thought I was being a good sister all those years, but really I was just teaching her that no matter how reckless she was, I'd be there to absorb the blow. Not anymore. Despite everything, the betrayal, the silence, the blame, Ivy was still my sister. That truth would never change. But another truth had finally cut through. Family isn't about blind forgiveness. It's about boundaries. And sometimes it's about letting people fall, even when it hurts to watch. Ivy may never learn. Maybe my parents won't either. But I have. And that at least feels like freedom. Some people never change, but I finally did.